everybody out there, RB Community Church students, families, and anybody else that might be joining us on the internet. We're glad you're joining us for devotionals today. And we are at almost the 1 month point for a lot of us being home. I'm 5 days away from having been staying at home completely for an entire month. And one of the things with repetition and monotony is that it gets boring pretty quick. So I know some of you guys are excited about getting back to school this week and figuring all that out, but the reality of it is that's also going to start to get dull pretty quick. And today, one of the things we just celebrated this weekend was Palm Sunday, right? And today's passage we're going to take a look at in Matthew chapter 21. You may have heard a lot of people saying the word Hosanna, Hosanna, and you're like, okay, I know that's a churchy word, but I'm not really sure what it means, but I know we say it around Easter time, and it's in some of the songs, but not really sure exactly what the meaning is, right? And one of the things that I love about this passage is Jesus was really, really all about kind of giving value to people that were seen as insignificant, right? Giving value to people that are forgotten, right? He was all about hanging out with people that others were not willing to be around, people that were looked down upon by society, by culture, and unfortunately at the time, especially the religious institutions, right? So Jesus was all about coming and acknowledging those people and showing that they have value. And one of the passages we're going to look at today, Jesus is in the temple, right? He's in the main temple, and he's performing signs and wonders. This is immediately following the story, if you remember, where Jesus came in and just flipped over the tables, and he goes, "What is this? A den of thieves," right? And it's one of those moments that people use to justify anger, right? But not really the point of that passage. But it's immediately following that. It goes on to say, and then he went and performed many wonders, and the people were amazed, right? And then it says, and the children started, Hosanna, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of David, right? The people who were looking for the Messiah, right? They knew that he was going to be from the line of David, and the children, right? And you guys know at Christmas, there's nothing more crazy than the kids as they're waiting for what they're getting for Christmas, right? They want to see what they got. There's the anticipation. So they've been waiting for the Messiah for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And then the kids see this guy and they're like, this is what we've been waiting for, right? And they're super, super stoked. But the reality of it is adults can sometimes be a little bit of a killjoy. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but you start to have a really good time and then an adult comes in and says, hey, settle down or calm down, or it's like they really, really came in hard and were killjoys in this situation. So I'm going to take a look. This is Matthew chapter 21, verse 15. I'll start at verse 14. It says, the blind and the lame came to him at the temple, and he healed them. But when the chief priests and the teachers of the law saw the wonderful things he did, and the children shouting in the temple area, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were indignant. Indignant means they got a little grumpy, right? They're like, what is this? What's going on? Hey kids, get off my lawn, right? We got that. They were indignant. And they came to Jesus, right? And one of the things that the chief priests try to do frequently is kind of try to trap Jesus, try to get him to say something that they could accuse him of not being who he said he was. And they go, do you hear what these children are saying, they exclaimed. And they're kind of saying hey, Jesus, you want to tell these kids what's going on, or you want to rebuke them as well? You want to be on our side in this situation? And it says, yes, Jesus replied. Have you never read, from the lips of children and infants you have ordained praise? And he left them and went out of the city to Bethany, right? So it's the reality of it is they wanted Jesus to come in and just be yeah, tell these kids what's up. Tell them to stop. Tell them to cut it out, right? And Jesus full on refers to a prophecy in Psalm chapter 8. And he just goes, don't you guys know? And the reality of it, this was kind of like a jab, because obviously they knew, These are the church leaders at the time. They knew, they definitely knew what he was saying, and he kind of just affirmed, like, you guys know that it says, from the mouths of infants and children will come my praise. And he's just basically saying, like, hey, these kids know what's going on. They know what we've been waiting for. They know what you've been waiting for. They know what you've been looking for. But you don't have the eyes to see it. You need to look at it with childlike faith, right? And Jesus praises childlike faith all throughout the New Testament, right? All throughout his conversations, he's frequently told we are supposed to have faith like children. And one of the things that I love about kids is that they just have a different lens and perspective with which they look at the world, right? For me, I know one of my favorite things growing up was like seeing magic shows and magic tricks, and just like you do a simple magic trick. I should have brought a coin with me. Do I have it? Yeah, whatever. How about I'll do it with an AirPod case, right? The simple little trick where you just take something like that and you're like, whoop, and then like you're like show it in your hand, and the kid's like, wow, where'd it go? And you're just like, as an adult, you're like, I just put it in the other hand. But the reality of it is, like, kids see that and they're like, wow. Or like even you might think I'm a little childish, but that is what it is. Like, kids love playing with bubbles. Like, I played with a little kid with bubbles. They can go for hours, right? You just blow it and just like run around in the yard and you're just laughing hysterically. This is the best, right? I'm one of those guys, whenever I wash my hands, especially important right now during quarantine, you take the soap and then you go like this and form a little circle with your hands. Go like that, blow a bubble into the sink. I encourage you guys to try that. And there's just this sense of awe and wonder. And I think the reason Jesus praised the kids in this moment is that the kids saw the reality of what was going on, right? And they weren't getting distracted. You know, the chief priests, they've got the perspective of, hey, we're head honchos and this guy's getting a lot of attention and that makes us unhappy, right? Whereas a child looks at it and says, this is awesome. I've seen that guy walking to church today, and he wasn't walking yesterday. Something significant is going on, right? And they have this lens of awe and wonder. Carolyn and I have a friend that has a 4-year-old, and Carolyn was FaceTiming her, and the 4-year-old came over, and you just hear him go, hey, Mom, can I take Richard and Carolyn out to dig for worms in the yard? Like, that is never uttered by an adult, other than perhaps if you're going fishing, but that's about it. And he just grabbed the phone, and, you know, kids are terrible with FaceTime. It's just shaking all over. You can't really see what's going on. Then you hear him go like, I found one, right? And he's super excited. You're like, it's a worm, right? But in this time where we're all struggling, we're all cooped up, we're all pent up, harnessing the power of childlike joy can be very difficult. It can be very, very hard because we just get stuck in a rhythm. We don't take time out of our day to experience that joy. So I challenge you guys, take some time throughout the next week and just think, if I was a little kid, what would I really want to do right now? Right? Make sure it's within reason. Don't break the law. Don't do anything stupid. Don't break any bones. But think about, hey, what would I want to do if I was a kid right now? Little kid, right? And thinking like, hey, maybe I will go do what Richard said and try to blow a bubble into the sink, right? Maybe I saw some people post a picture of them. They built a fort. That was pretty cool, right? Fort time, you guys. It's like, you're like, oh, I'm too old to build a fort now. Fort's for 4-year-olds. Like, the reality of it is, I know people in their 30s that are at home, bored. So they built a fort because they want to rekindle that childlike joy. Right? And that simple, just like, this isn't much, but I'm just enjoying the moment, right? So we've got this perspective that Jesus calls us to. So later on, one of the passages it talks about is in Matthew 18. Basically the people were arguing a little bit, right? It was almost like I want to be said to be the person that's really important. So they were asking Jesus, hey, Jesus, who is the most important in the kingdom of heaven? Right? And then in verse 4, he says, He called a little child to him and had him stand among them. And he said, I tell you the truth, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself like a child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus invites us to have childlike faith, right? And one of the things that makes childlike faith so significant is the sense of trust, right? I believe in Jesus. I trust that Jesus is who he says he is, right? When Jesus came into town and they were shouting Hosanna, it was because they trusted that Jesus says who he says he is, that he was who the people around were saying he is. And Christ invites us to a simple faith. One of my favorite trips that we do with the students, if you haven't had a chance to go, you should, is our Mexico house building trip. And what makes it so fun is it's a first-time experience for everybody, right? Or not for everybody, but it's a first-time experience for a lot of people. Let's be honest, the majority of high schoolers I know have not built a house. Unless you serve at RB Community Church, then you've probably done it 4 or 5 times. But the reality of it is, it's pretty new for a lot of people. And some people just like kind of go at it like, okay, I've got a hammer here. I'm just like, there's always that kid that's just hammering a nail into the ground. You're like, dude, what are you doing? Right? But the reality is, a lot of the time it's because they don't know what they're doing. So it's like, they're just like, okay, I'm kind of bored. I'm going to be childlike. I'm going to have a good time, even though I don't know what I'm doing. But the reality of it is we can take, as leaders, we can take that energy, we can harness that energy, and we can focus that energy. And that creates a dynamic outcome. And I think that's what happens with childlike faith is when we have somebody that we trust that has our best interests in mind leading us in Jesus, he can take our faith, right? He can take what we have and turn it into something that can transform us, right? And I know when we hand over the keys to a house in Mexico to a family in need and the tears start coming, I know that a transformed life just happened. And when we give Jesus our heart and our faith, simple faith, he can take that and he can transform us into something that we never even thought we could be or imagine. So I challenge you guys, this week, take some simple steps in faith. Trust God, experience joy, love the people around you, and more than anything, remember, I think it's important for us to remember that we serve a God who desires for us to have joy. So Brent talked about joy last week, about how even though we're in troubled circumstances and life isn't great right now, that doesn't mean we can't experience joy. Joy is something that's deeper than just our circumstances. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you guys on Friday for Restless. Bye.